Well, as Jane so correctly pointed out a little while ago, this is Independence Day weekend, and there are many of us who are concerned about the welfare of our country, our society, our media, our fellow citizens, the ordering of our political world in light of policies and practices of the current state and federal administrations. This answers similar concerns that have been expressed throughout my lifetime and longer from the other side about the growing liberalism and liberality of our society, which has been seen as damaging to the market, to individualism, to the predominance of a perceived Christian culture. The pendulum has swung. So, with the admonition of the Apostle Paul still present in our ears, let me say it again for you, bear one another's burdens, I feel compelled to offer a certain measure, if perhaps also a meager measure, of hope that we the people, different or hesitant though we may be, can still work together for the benefit of our entire society. All of us, together, believe it or not. I'm not saying that we can afford much more of the backswing of that societal pendulum, but I want to point out that we can survive it and that we have points of commonality with those we may view as opponents or even enemies. Let me offer you an example. Historic though it may be, not in the present, but there are present examples as well. Some of you, in a meeting with me last week, heard me refer to former Speaker of the House Paul Ryan as, and I believe I'm quoting, a very nice man. I believe I referred to him as conscientious and helpful. And I told you that I knew this from personal experience with him. You see, in 2002, Mr. Ryan was the member of Congress representing the 1st District of the state of Wisconsin, where I was living at the time. I had the occasion to meet Mr. Ryan in person when my wife and I went to Washington on vacation and took advantage of our time there to meet with him at his Washington office about a matter of grave concern to me and many others back home in Burlington, where we lived. A local developer had recently purchased a 60-bed residential setting for cognitively disabled and dually diagnosed individuals. Adults, most of whom had grown up in Burlington and had the advantage of this community in order to continue living near their families and friends. 60 beds. The setting had been created out of a defunct hotel and spa located on Browns Lake by the previous owner. The facility employed more than 30 people, 60 residents, 30 employees. The new owner had bought the home not with any intention of improving it, but intending to tear it down to make way for luxury lakeside condominiums. And although a group of us citizens had protested, the new owner worked swiftly upon taking possession of the facility with the social workers at the home to find new places for all the residents to live. I like to say they were scattered to the winds. Within a month, this flourishing, if also rather, shall we say, vintage building was empty, and the developer, over my and other citizens' protest, as his attorney, sounding somewhat like his consigliere when speaking with me, put it in a conversation I believe was intended to prevent me from speaking out by threatening me with a libel suit, simply did what developers do. I still hear his voice. He was a member of my church. I still hear his voice The gravitas in his voice in my ear saying, "Are you telling me that he shouldn't be able to do what he simply does?" Working with a Wisconsin nonprofit that built subsidized and affordable housing, my citizens group sought the support of Representative Ryan for the creation of a new 8-bed residential setting for people like those who had been displaced by that lakeside development. He heard us out, Mr. Ryan did, sympathized with our cause and effort, gave us his full endorsement in writing, and there was little after that with which he and I agreed, but his support turned the tide, and by 2008, Citizens for Affordable Housing was dedicating Meadow View, not on Browns Lake, but just a few blocks from my home. It's a nice story. People working together to make sure that other people are taken care of. 8-bed facility as opposed to 60 beds, but laws had changed and you do what you can. Speaking of laws, Martin has a similar story, don't you, Martin? So, for his story, a number of people of differing perspectives working together to bear one another's burdens, we have to go back to 1956 when Martin was a curious 2-year-old. Still curious, no longer 2. When he was 2, he discovered a bottle with his mother's cuticle remover in it. And knowing that bottles often have things to drink in them, and that this smelled sweet, he evidently took a swig. Do you remember this, Martin?
My mother told me.
Your mother told you about this. Very good. Do you know what your mother did next?
She freaked out.
Okay, yes, she did freak out. And she freaked out because when she looked at the bottle, it did not have a list of ingredients on it. More so than that, it not only didn't have a list of ingredients on it, it didn't say what to do if it was ingested. So she and Poison Control had no idea how to take care of him. Fortunately, he had taken so little of it, it didn't actually cause any, ill effects, at least for a couple more days. Have you ever heard of the Hazardous Substances Labeling Act?
Yeah.
You have? What is it?
Well, it's been a while, but I did hear about it.
Okay, so I'll tell you what it does. This is a law that requires companies that use substances dangerous to human health in their products not only to list the hazardous substances, but also measures to limit the substance's harm after exposure. It's what was lacking on her bottle of cuticle remover. I can't find this recorded in St. Louis newspapers, but in the Kansas City Star from Sunday, April 8th, 1962, we read, "Quick action saved 2-year-old Martin Mills in 1956 after he drank some cuticle remover. But the difficulty in identifying the poison led his mother, Mrs. Floris R. Mills of Webster Groves, Missouri, to do something about it. There ought to be a law," she told Representative Thomas B. Curtis, "requiring that poisonous substances be listed on the package or bottle." The Missouri congressman agreed, and he introduced the bill in Congress in 1957. It wasn't acted upon in that session, but he reintroduced it in 1959, and it was passed in 1960. The pen President Eisenhower used to sign the measure into law was sent to Mrs. Mills. I believe it's the box that she's holding in that photograph. She is modest about her contribution to the new law, which became effective February 1, 1962, after an 18-month compliance delay, pointing out that the American Medical Association had been working on a similar bill since 1951. Quote, "I just made one call to my congressman," she said. "He did the rest. And mind you, and I love this, I'm an independent, not a Republican." I am intrigued that even in 1962, a member of our congregation, Mrs. Mills, thought that it would be important to declare her independence of political party. Her partner in this effort, Thomas Curtis, was definitely partisan, but he stands out as a very independent sort himself. He was a Republican, probably why Floris felt it important to cite her independence, but Curtis is noted for having been a powerful advocate for civil rights. Notably, he was serving at exactly that time when the fight was going on to desegregate the Webster Groves municipal pool. Mr. Curtis had served in World War II. He would serve 8 terms in Congress. His Wikipedia bio says that he was the primary driver of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, voted for the Voting Rights Act of 1965, promoted Medicare, and concluded his service in Congress by, unfortunately, losing in a Senate race with Thomas Eagleton in 1968, but only by 27,000 votes. He had 49% to Eagleton's 51. His obituary in the New York Times remembered him as President Nixon's appointee to the chairmanship of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Should be a couple, there we go. He survived there for only a year when he was ousted for having accused the Nixon administration of meddling in the corporation's affairs. Gerald Ford appointed him as the founding chair of the Federal Election Commission. And I am happy to say that when Curtis was mentioned repeatedly in other articles from 1962, they were about the statewide meeting of historically congregational churches being held here at First Church. He was not only a featured speaker, but a congregational layman. Click. There we go. I can't find him in the membership here, in our membership books, but there were 3 congregational churches in Webster Groves in 1962, so he was likely a member of either Faith or Church of the Open Door. Anyway, together, Martin's mother and her Republican member of Congress took up the charge of the Apostle Paul to bear one another's burdens. And to a certain extent, Martin did this too, who really raised the issue for conscientious adults. They did it recognizing that there was a need that others were not taking sufficiently serious enough to do something about. And maybe you're thinking, well, that was a different time. There was so much more then that still needed to be done. Listen to everything that Thomas Curtis had to do, and as a Republican. I'd respond, think of what we as a state did in the last election. Earned leave and minimum wage passed. Women's right to be self-determining about their bodies passed. Which for passage, neither one, or both of them, required people of differing parties to approach them in a nonpartisan way. We had to bear one another's burdens. We had to work together for the benefit of our society. And the setbacks that are mounting of fear, as Sharon put it last week, biblical misinterpretation may be coming back at us right now. Tell me there is not still more to do to bear burdens together for the sake of our entire society. We can do this. We have done this. You got this. You got this. We got this. Amen.